Aloha, everyone, and welcome on this Wednesday morning, February 25th, 2026. Today, we're going to bring you some AI news. And of course, if you see me, we're going to be talking about AI in science. Science.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Beth, you will have some fantastic news stories and other things for us today. But welcome everyone for joining, and this is the Daily AI Show. So I'll get started off with a couple of news bits here. So the last couple of days, we've seen a few interesting news come out, but mostly it's been in the enterprise space. So Anthropic announced yesterday they had their live stream briefing that focused on enterprise agents and it's how it's used to expand Claude's workspace tooling. The company is leaning on plugins and connectors so Claude can pull in context from business systems and compete in multi-step workflows. Anthropic and its partners highlighted integrations that let Claude work across documents, email, calendars, and line of business apps, including finance and legal workflows. Reuters reported that Anthropic rolled out multiple enterprise plugins aimed at functions like investment banking, wealth management, human resources, and engineering, with partners named in the launch as LSEG or LSEG, FactSet, Slack, and DocuSign. The pitch is that agents can stay inside the tools people already use rather than forcing workers into a separate chat window. Now, OpenAI has also been pushing agent platforms for enterprise, and Microsoft is, of course, embedding copilots across Office. Google is building Gemini into Google Workspace. What makes Anthropics a little different is they're more explicit about bringing your own tools and contexts uh, as part of their model for Claude in enterprise setting, anchored in dedicated enterprise agents events. So one of the hardest parts about AI in work or at work is being able to offer the ability to just integrate whatever your work is using in with AI, and that's always been a hard point for implementation. We did see Cowork come out a few weeks ago for your own personal use and connected with Claude Code, which has been, fantastic for Anthropic as a whole. And I believe, Beth, uh, did Karl or Brian show like an example of how they have Cowork integrated within their process? No, not yet. Okay, well, look forward to that because obviously we've got to show that to all of our viewers.
Okay, but I I have a I have questions about cowork. So
Uh-huh.
one of the things that I thought was going to be really exciting about cowork was essentially the like macro like thing I can teach you and then you're going to do the thing.
Yeah.
I used an astonishing number of tokens to get something done with cowork that it ultimately did not actually do. Like it didn't complete the task.
Hmm.
Um, it had to do with downloading. I said this on the show before because it worked previously,
Hmm.
where it could use it could do something on a website. And now I'm wondering if I was using Coworker or Google Chrome, but whatever it was like it used half the token allotment. It used
Hmm.
$50 worth of the. It's not $50 because I pay the 100, and the 100 goes multiple days and multiple times in a day. But whatever it was, it used half my allotment to
Hmm.
do something that I was like, okay, no, that's not worth the time saved for me. I mean, you're taking 10 times as long as I would do it, but if it's not me, hey, that's still worth it for me. But not if you take half the tokens of the
Right.
session.
Well,
I,
that's the that's sort of where we are in the crux of like all of those stories that are coming out of is AI saving you time or using more time. And I think
Right.
this all goes back to the argument of, well, you need runway, right? You need to ramp up to, and you have to take the overhead of building out the tools that are going to do it continuously over and over for you, right? So I think we're in this place of, here's this new feature. It's going to be more expensive, right?
Hmm.
Costing more tokens to get it done. But just like API token usage, and model as new models come out, previous models, or they always come out with some cheaper version, right? Like Sonnet 4.6 is, oh, you can get a lot or really close to like Opus, but it costs you a remarkable less amount of tokens and cost per token to
Right.
to accomplish those goals. So early adopter syndrome, I guess, right? So that's basically the way I see it. So if you're like us and we're in the space of like, okay, well, we got to try it and we got to see
Right.
how well it's going to work for us, and then maybe 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line, okay, cool, now it's cheap enough to take over this particular application. Now there may always be other ways to do it. I've been seeing a lot of back and forth of what should be automated and what should be agentic AI. Right?
Right.
There are certain things that are literally a factory. You're inputting raw material and getting an output, and it needs to be the exact same output all the time.
Right.
Automation's probably going to be the better solution for that. If you're figuring things out or you need those
Right.
more complicated layers or tests, that sounds like more of a job for agentic AI.
I agree, and that is actually my process of going through things with Claude Code, and then sort of seeing, okay, so what part of what we just did should be spun off as a sub agent, right?
Mm.
Because I swear to you, anything you do with the daily AI show content is giant because we're on for an hour. So like the one of the first things was like yeah, downgrade that MP3 so that it is mono and like the minimum that Scribe can work with, because we don't need high fidelity bandwidth or high fidelity bit rate for transcribing word for word the way that Scribe does our show to get that transcript. And the next piece is like, okay, maybe the transcript that then comes out of that, a diarized transcript, maybe that's assessed by a sub agent as well, buddy, because I need you to have full context of what we're doing, those kinds of things. And then the next piece is, oh, that's an automation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that, the file drops, there's an automation that switches the bit rate, makes it a smaller file, sends it. There's an automation that recognizes that that's complete, checks it periodically, and then launches the other pieces. And that, like, I was talking to people yesterday. I feel like my work, the more comfortable work way that
Mm-hmm.
I do, is a little more observation of a process than think the process out before we get into it. And that's for me the shift from needing to be really good at prompt engineering and process, like mentally working through it, and being willing to fail at processes. Like it's fine. The worst that happens is that they have no idea what I'm talking about, and that is good information for me to figure out both ways, versus trying to figure out why the custom GPT didn't take the next 3 actions that it was supposed to take. Like, would
Yeah,
prefer you
I
to tell me.
right. I think you make a really really good point. I mean, it makes me think of sort of the kind of realization when high quality digital cameras came out,
Mhm.
right? I got into photography and filmmaking, that kind of stuff years ago when you actually used film, right? Early on, even editing with videotape was still a fairly manual process, right? You're moving positions, and then you have your third tape to put in the cut or whatever.
Yeah, your
And
splice was a splice.
it's
You
Splice, exactly. That is why the tool is called Splice in Final Cut and Premiere.
and
Uh,
it's a picture of scissors.
Scissors, right? But I guess my point really is that once you had that true digital revolution, photography changed from let me make the perfect exact shot that I want, and I'll take all the time and light it and position it and everything and just wait for that particular moment and then take the shot, because you only had 24 shots in your roll and it would take forever to switch out the film, right? And so, but with digital cameras, it's just keep on clicking, you
Right.
know, just move position or wait for more moments, or, and once it became digital, recording, then it's pre-roll. It's just like pointed at pointed at whatever you're looking at, and then hit the button and record everything and then cut out what you need. And that's kind of where we're at now is we have the AI where we can simply says it's all about ideation. So
Right.
let's try this. No, let's try this. No, let's try this, because we can over and over and over again. We can have an agent try 1,000 different things, and then come
Right.
back with a handful of solutions.
And
Uh,
that does for me ease part of what is hard for me about ideation, which is remembering and taking notes on what the combination was in the ideation, right? And
mm,
so doing it with an agent, or again doing it with something that allows me to record it in that kind of way, takes the challenge of needing to take notes for that. Like, oh, okay, I like number 7. So what happened in number 7? What do we do in number 7?
mm,
And that starts to mean that more things can happen. Speaking of more things that can happen, look, I set up my own weave here.
nice.
Anthropic came out with um, terminal. What did it call? What did they call it? Hang on. They came out with basically an agentic thing that's going to let you control your terminal from your phone, so that you can, once you start a session wherever you are in your terminal, you
Mhm.
can then pick it up from the phone, which means you can now move around while things are happening. I have noticed more recently that there are a lot more things that are taking like 15 minutes. It churned for 15 minutes. It came out with a great thing, right? But the idea, yeah, and it works in your IDE too, I think, Cisco. Yeah, Jennifer, people are saying that like Anthropic just released OpenClaw. I don't think that's entirely true, but they did release a reason that you don't have to figure out tail scale and tmux sessions. I'm not salty that I did figure out tail scale and tmux sessions, because this is going to be much easier to talk about and explain to other people about how that's happening. Yeah, because it just means that if you have a system that's like really working, like a long-term agentic assignment, the show prep process for me takes somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes. It would be nice if I could start that from, while making coffee or something, or make that, process move forward. Yeah.
So when you said from the phone, I immediately thought about a story that you did, or you talked about the last week, was the Droid Claw, right? Which is
Yeah.
an add-on or expansion to OpenClaw, like Jennifer mentioned. Is this an answer to that, or they found a space that people really wanted to implement?
It may be an answer for some of that. What
Mhm.
it would still like, I'm still live talking with Claude Code on my computer. It's a little more like remote access in some ways, which of course is what T-Scale and Tmux are. You could set up cron jobs potentially to be able to make timing things, but I don't know why you wouldn't do that as like an N8N automation versus a cron job that is set to give your Claude Code a,
Mhm.
a prompt or a conversation at a particular time that you decided before. Um, Again, like it's sort of old school business analyst. I like to observe the thing, maybe make a little process map about what's
Mhm.
happening, and then see which parts automate.
W-
Because if I'm just gonna like YOLO, then I'm building my containers first, right?
mhm.
And I'm not gonna YOLO from the coffee maker doing like that. Just doesn't make sense.
Right.
What is my advantage? It to take the risk that like from the coffee maker I said, yep, go ahead, do the thing, in a way that I wouldn't be doing at the computer. I don't know.
Mhm. Well, I mean, when you mention Tailscale and Tmux, and some people not wanting to go through that process, I'm like, hold on. I think you need to know where the meat comes from in the supermarket. You need to know how it gets to under the cellophane. Okay, you need to know how the
Oh,
vegetables are grown and get to. Now
I
that might
worked
not
in
be
a
your thing,
deli. I worked
but
in a deli in high school. Like,
you got well, you got to know the process so you can appreciate the whole chain or the entire process. Whether or not you connect with that or align with that, that's another thing. But I think it's important that uh, people take that extra step, right? It's like the concept of you don't need to be a coder to at least get you your MVP, right? But you need to understand coding or be able to read it fairly well to understand what your magical mix in your cauldron is doing, right? You need to understand or know what you're looking at so that you can ask questions that you don't you don't normally get to answer. And I guess that's part of the whole vibe coding, or what's the newer technical term that they're trying to push, like code assisted programming or something like that, or a coding assistant programming.
yeah.
But um, yeah, providing that context really, I think, really helps. And I guess it does make people more technical. Um,
Hmm.
I'm sure you could probably get by without doing it, but then that comes to the conversation of you're using AI. So doesn't it, as part of your process, you should understand what's going on, at least from that perspective. So
Well, Nate Jones, I
mhm.
think it was yesterday, but Nate Jones recently um, actually talked about intent engineering instead of context and content and prompt, right? All of those kinds of pieces that we think about in terms of engineering, because the agents are so capable now that you need to help them understand why you've asked for something. And he used Klarna's example that Klarna moved to basically customer service agents and optimized for fastest resolution, but
Mm,
that wasn't actually their the customer service business model. Like, you can see
right.
why it might be, but it didn't work, right? They lost trust. Fast resolution felt like robotic, and it didn't feel like they were being heard, right? Like, it didn't service the customer, it
Mhm.
serviced the benchmark.
Mm,
And so that's part of what what he talked about in this article, about that we really want to share the intention of the process. And I will say that that is something that I am doing as well, because when something doesn't work, it's usually not because they didn't understand like the the instructions so much as they didn't understand why I was asking it, which would be sort of the context and the larger intention that it fits in the bigger picture of what we're talking about, right? What I'm trying to get
mhm.
done.
All right. I think Jeff got the one I was trying to look for, the new term, agentic engineering. So thank you, Jeff. And I do love Cisco's Cisco's new term. Maybe that will be the DAS term. Uh, so Cisco, how do we pronounce the
I did not want it if. Uh,
right? So there's a couple approaches there to your future
oh,
agentic
he
engineering
said,
or
I
agentic.
don't know. I do not know what it is, what the AI is doing, but it works. Yeah. That's YOLO, right? I mean, that's YOLO.
Yeah, so I don't know. I always look through the lens. I'm always going to look through the lens of IT first, right? And so I guess it becomes risk management. It's like,
Right.
well, the concept of putting it on its own box, its own little Mac Mini, like the whole OpenClaw thing, right? Putting on its own box, it's running its own containers, it's running its own little setup. All right, perfect, cool. Because if it goes back, you can just wipe it or unplug it, so to speak.
And Gareth is helping me with what the thing is called that I was talking about. It is Cloud Remote Control, which lets you uh, basically use your phone to connect to the terminal that you're running the other stuff on. So we talked about it. I haven't used it,
Mhm.
Gareth. If anyone here has, would love to hear.
Definitely. And you can do that by letting us know in the community
Ooh,
at dailyaishowcommunity.com. Sign up, join the conversation. Lots of very smart people there. All right, cool. Did my plug.
yes,
Now,
you did.
so Beth, I wanted to throw to you to see if there was any other news that you wanted to cover. Um, and I don't know if you guys over the last this is kind of out of the news cycle already for AI because it's so quickly, but OpenClaw and OpenAI and that whole thing too, right?
We did talk a lot about that. What we did you just say the thing about the Pentagon and Anthropic?
No, I didn't talk about that, but there
Okay.
is a lot of Anthropic news over the last week.
Yeah.
And things that are, of course, everything is interconnected in AI. If one team does one thing, you're always going to hear about something from somewhere else. Um,
So,
yeah,
yeah, this feels like a pressure test for every safety principle Anthropic has ever put on paper, but also there's news about Anthropic shifting, pulling back a little bit from some of the safety pieces that it's put on paper.
I did
Um,
hear about that one. Yeah.
so the Pentagon has given Dario Amodei a Friday deadline, remove the safeguards on Claude for military use or face the consequences. And the consequences on the table are kind of wild. Being forced to comply under the Defense Production Act, or being classified as a terrorist, right? I mean, it's like it was,
A
they are,
classification that is reserved for enemies of the state, or
yes.
traditionally reserved for the enemies of the state.
So whether, like, how possible that is a little bit of a question, but it's definitely like as much pressure as Hegseth, uh who's defense secretary, let's just war secretary. I don't even know how that shifts, but Um, and the crux of this is that the contract that Anthropic signed and the War Department signed together did actually, I believe, lay out these as not as things that were not going to be able to happen. Why outside the context of this, the other frontier labs, OpenAI, Grok. I actually don't know if Gemini's in that. It may be Meta. There is a third. Sorry, I don't remember which one. Um, and they have like made plays like, "Hey, we're willing to do it." And the two sticklers are surveillance of U.S. citizens inside the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and um, weaponry that does not include a human as part of the end decision making. So is that true?
Yeah, the basically, and AI Daily Brief has a good breakdown of this as well. But essentially, it's the military is saying, or Department of Defense or whatnot, are saying that they need or want to do anything that is technically legal. And when it comes to the military, that's very wide, such as monitoring citizenry, such as deploying, um, you know, military
Right.
hardware, software, or any application that's technically legal. Um,
So,
now, yeah.
but it's like constitutional law and national security policy, and the question about if wartime legal mechanisms can strip AI safeguards just because because of wartime, and who actually draws the line on autonomous weapons and mass surveillance, and is there a line left to draw? But of course, the piece in that has been argued for 60 years, something like that, is war is something that gets declared by Congress. It's a specific thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we are technically not at war, right? So, like, this bubbles all the gremlins up, really.
Yeah, and I think there was an interesting point brought up in what I was reading and listening to was the the in, the particular place that Anthropic is in, right? They essentially got started, or at least they're known for being more AI safety conscious, right? They had more stricter parameters when they created their constitutional AI, and when most of I shouldn't say most, but a good deal of AI developers moved from OpenAI to create Anthropic. And so Anthropic upholding its mission as an organization is now coming in direct conflict with military application when in their terms of use for their tools say absolutely not. You can't
Mhm.
do any of those kinds of things. And then people are going back and forth. It's like, well, then why did you take the military contract in the first place? And so Anthropic's in an interesting position, I think, where they either need to still uphold their mission, otherwise they lose what kind of helps differentiate them from everybody else, um, or they'll be making, you know, drastic changes to
Yeah.
who they are, right? Um, which which I find interesting in this positioning because of this story from the Wall Street Journal, which is they've changed their responsible scaling policy, or their RSP, which
Which
is a
is
volunteer frontier model safety framework. and works in practice. So, from Time and the Wall Street Journal, it says the company removed a central pledge that would have blocked it from training new systems unless it could guarantee adequate safeguards. Anthropic said that it's updating the RSP to reflect uncertainty in evaluation and evaluation science and the reality that unilateral commitments can break if competitors keep building. So instead of a blanket no-go promise, the updated approach emphasizes transparency and conditional actions, including publishing the frontier safety roadmaps and the risk reports tied to capability thresholds. Now, this may be a non-starter type story where here we're just making it more flexible to be able to tell you more, but not necessarily the coincidence, but the timing of having to run into this military conflict, plus you making any form of change to your safety policy or safety framework might be misconstrued as, abdicating or, aligning.
Anthropic is really good at a bunch of things, but this kind of messaging, I feel like there isn't anyone who's really taken it on as their baby, right? Because it's the same kind of thing in terms of messaging that happened when they cut people off who thought they were using their Mac subscriptions as a way to do an end run around the API costs. It seemed okay, and then they cut them off and said it wasn't okay. There has been messaging that's come after the fact, like, hey, we want to be clear now. We want to work with what's happening. And it's the Jim and January business model, right? Like, yes, they sold you the thing, but they sold too many. And if everybody came at the same time, it would be a problem. And that's essentially what they're doing. That's probably what all of the AI subscription models are. You can't have your entire user base hit it all at the same time and want to use the maximum during that period of time, the same way that there just isn't enough gym equipment for everyone who has this membership, right? Like that is kind of how this works. But I do feel like the sequence of timing is showing a messaging flaw. And
right.
Dario was a scientist, right? Like, he's not Sam entrepreneurial. We have the story. The story is always really important. Dario's like, let the data happen.
Yeah. Well, that's an excellent point, because I everyone needs to realize that for the most part, all of these foundational model groups, they are engineer focused, right? That's who they started. We even get mixed messages from OpenAI, even though it's led by big time CEO and been in that space. But we've talked about how startup messaging, being a startup and messaging versus being a monolithic organization messaging, and how they've already run into problems with that. You're totally right about Anthropic. They're sort of in the space of, like, they're known for Claude code, right? Their engineer mindset. It's like, yeah, none of this matters. Let me just do it, and then I'll explain to you what's going on. So there's a lot of that kind of thinking.
Yeah. All right. One other quick message that's actually a follow-up from something that we talked about yesterday. It has been confirmed and more details have been released about the Chinese model, the Chinese companies using Anthropic's systems to train their models. So Minimax ran 13 million exchanges targeting agentic coding. Moonshot AI ran 3.4 million exchanges targeting reasoning traces. And DeepSeek ran 150,000 exchanges, specifically prompting Claude to reconstruct its own chain of thought. All three routed traffic through 20,000 fake account, more potentially fake account proxy networks, and did it in a way to dodge detection, right? So there was whatever that's called legally, like you tried to hide it, which meant you knew it was wrong, right? Like Minimax specifically redirected 50% of traffic to the newest cloud model 24 hours after its release. Like all of those things are used to go into constructing the knowledge that this that they did this with full knowledge. And separately, a senior U.S. official confirmed DeepSeek trained its latest model on NVIDIA Blackwell chips that were banned from export to China.
Mhm.
And they did so at a data center in Inner Mongolia. So a bunch of what this says is we had some knowledge of this, we had some suspicion of this, and this is what's been confirmed. So
the bad part is that it broke terms of service, or that they didn't use paid accounts, or
I think they used paid accounts.
right. So
They
it's got to
broke
be a terms of service thing, right? Like you can't use our service to help reconstruct
the service,
the service. Okay.
which
Okay.
is frankly boilerplate for any SaaS you use, right? I mean, somewhere in the terms of service is you can't do what you can't use our service to totally build a competitor to what we do, because you use the service and understand what it does. But the other piece of this is China is that China can do this cheaper and potentially faster, and is not beholden to the agreements that we're making in the US with the companies. They're beholden to it in terms of they may not be able to use it anymore. Those accounts got shut down, I'm sure. But
sure, you can spin up another 20,000 fake accounts. If you could do it once, you can do it again, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think I was just trying to go through the thinking of what's the really illegal part of this. Can there be any enforcement of it anyways? I mean, it's perfectly fine within our own region, our own country, being to uphold it through these processes. But, China's never really given a strong example of wanting to hold to IP and copyright,
No.
internationally.
But if the speed with which new models gets created is faster, the distinction between the new models, while big on benchmarks, is not super big from a user interaction standpoint. And China can do this cheaper, right? If the path to frontier AI capability is steal the outputs and smuggle the chips, and it's working, then how does that affect $100 billion bets that labs in the West are making and on building safe AI? Like there's a lot of spokes from that question that come out. Yesterday we had sort of the funny takeaway that is, well, technically it's better for the environment if we don't build a new data center and try to create it like if this is the better environmental way to create models. But it's not the better financial bet for the people who are investing in it in the West.
Well, that definitely is a much larger story. And you're right, Gareth. Let's make a lot of weaves off of this with Notebook LM. There you go.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, I think that, well, without putting too much time on it, I think there's a lots of larger questions that can be asked, and and maybe certain approaches are not long-term efficient or productive.
Right.
Right.
Well, because but the other context of that, and I swear I will let you weave off this to Notebook LM if that's where you want to go.
No, no.
But the other piece of this is the context in which these stories are taking place. We've just had the release of 2 really good models that had versions of those models help train and help make the new models better with the advances that they have. So if you've stolen enough, now you also have a model that can train its own next version.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, looks like Karl just joined us. All right, Karl. Perfect timing. We were going to weave off to another story. Do you have a particular piece of news that you wanted to talk about? We've been talking about the Anthropic, more details about the Chinese companies using thousands of accounts.
Okay.
Payment and that kind of stuff. So was there anything that you wanted to cover?
Not really, because I think like this, I'm not sure if there's anything like, are we kind of in a, I don't know if I call it a lull, but it's sort of like, so DeepSeek didn't launch this morning, right? I wasn't
not as far as I know.
That didn't happen, right?
Usually chat tells us what's launched while we're online.
Yes, while we're online, yeah. So there wasn't really anything other than like kind of, I don't know, like slow news day. There's a bunch of stuff happening, but it isn't like anything pressing. I would say though, kind of on my mind has, and I don't know how to describe this, but like, do you with you all, do you also? I'm working on one thing, so I'm getting Claude Code or Cowork or Codex, one of the to do it. Then I have another thing to do it, And so what I'm noticing is that my focus is kind of all over the place because each task is being done by AI. So there's like 5 or 6 different things being done. Usually when you do work, you're focused on this thing. But then if I have 5 or 6 different things going, it becomes a little bit difficult to switch to really get in depth into the thing that you want to do, because it's like a different form of, like I usually like to do is turn off all notifications, all like Slack, everything when I'm focused on something. But when I'm working, I have like 5 or 6 things going on. It's worse if it's multiple clients because it's different things completely. Do you find that like your focus is off and you're kind of just jumping from one thing to another, but not even in the same kind of realm, but now it's even more pronounced because AI is like doing so many different things, whether it's personal or work? Like it's just, I don't know. That's kind of what's been on my mind a bit.
Well, okay, so here's probably a dated and somewhat problem. No, I'm not gonna say that. It's so much of a dated analogy, but so back in the day, in tech and IT and things like that, you had skinny engineers and you had big engineers, right? And the reason why is their access to equipment. And so don't worry, it all makes sense in the end. And so you had a skinny engineer, it's because they had access to faster hardware, better software, and they were constantly focused on doing something and get moving on to the next thing and the next thing. And then you had big engineers, as you can see. I was the big engineer, where we had very slow hardware. We had to piece together our own software and processes. So we had to let it go, and then we did other things. So this is sort of goes along the thing that you're identifying is everything is moving so quickly, and there is more points of drawing your attention away from a focused output or a focused goal. So I have found with the increase in productivity and hardware output, software and internet speeds and things like that. Hey, I remember the time when I had a 14.4K modem and it literally took 30 seconds to load a website. So, you know, I'm fine with pressing the button and then go grabbing a snack. That's the big
No, and that's it's weird. Okay, so here's one thing. I hope some of my clients aren't listening to this, but like, there was one project I was doing, and I was like, you know what? Exit Claude code, Claude dangerously skip permissions, because I was like, you know what? I don't want to. It's like, here's what I wanted to do, and I was like, yeah, I'm working it pretty hard. So and I was just like, I was just sitting there, literally playing video games, and like every time there's a lull or something, I would just peek over and be like, yeah, that seems fine, and then that seems fine, and then that seems fine, and so I swear I would be there for like 2 hours playing video games, and I'd have like Claude Code 2 terminals running to do work for 2 different clients. And that's really what I'm doing. And then at the finish, it's like, yeah, this is good. And then at the client meeting, it's like, hey, how long did it take you? About 2 hours. And then I was like, yeah, 2 hours. So we came up with 2 hours AI time, 2 hours real time, 2 different times.
Right.
I'm just not saying what's in my head. And then I'm just looking at it, and they're like, Karl, I don't know how long you take to do this. And it's like, yeah, I took a long time. But I knew how to.
You're telling industry secrets here, Karl.
and especially when you have teams of agents,
right?
And I'm like, yeah.
Well, here's the thing, right? This has been okay. So from like the creative agency side of things, right, or creative, any kind of project you work on, doesn't have to be creative, but any kind of project that you work on for an enterprise or for another company. And even lawyers have a term, billable hours, right? This is how much expertise, time, energy, equipment, all of that stuff to get it to be very efficient.
Yeah.
Or like I like to use the Montgomery Scott rules of engineering, where you say, yes, this will take 24 hours to do. We'll have this ready for you, Captain, tomorrow. But it takes you 2 hours to fix. It's the only way that you've earned your legendary status. But the point is, there's the amount of time, work, and energy that has gotten to the point to where you could do it efficiently. You could do it in 2 hours of AI time. Whereas if you didn't use AI, it would be literally, 10 or 20.
Yeah, I was calculating myself. I was like, okay, if I did this myself, it would be more than 2 hours. It would be a lot of hours, like a lot. And just the brain power, and I'd be tired, and then I'd switch, just a lot. It would probably take a day and a half, let's say, to do what I was trying to do.
Right.
And now it's like, but here's an interesting question for you too. The question now is, there are in the space that we play in, people still think of work as in hours, right? So like one client said, hey, how come it's so much? And I was like, because you're like, what's the hours on this? It's like, I don't want you to think about the hours. I want you to think about this is the results you'll get.
Right. Projects, results based versus
25%.
Time.
If you literally implement this, you're 25%, like nearly guaranteed. And it's like it's kind of a different type, like it's all value based now, right? It's like, if you do this, it will lead to this. It could take me 5 minutes to build it. It would probably take you 2 hours to build it yourself, because you don't have the knowledge or the skill set or the time, because you'd only build this half-assed because you have another job to do, while I can solely concentrate the skills to do it, and it only take me 10 minutes to say build whatever it is. But now you have something that can do that would cut 3-4 hours a week off what you're doing. So that it is, right? So it's like,
Yeah. I mean,
very, very
the trades have been doing this for forever, right? You call your plumber to fix the issue with your sink, and they fix it in 15 minutes, and they
Correct.
charge you for an hour's worth of work. What are you charging for? It's like, well, I've been doing this for
I'm not
30
charging
years.
you for the 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm charging you
Right.
so my toilet doesn't blow up.
Right.
Right. And I don't know how to do this, or I would, but it would take me like 3 days.
Right. And you're charging for the knowledge of what it feels like when a wrench is turning something that is going to turn eventually easily, or is turning something that's going to break the pipe.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's really what you're paying for. Also, nobody wants to get down on their hands and knees all the time and do that kind of thing. You're also paying for somebody's future massage physical therapy who's doing this all the time. Right. But yes, because that's the Cisco said, you're also there if it breaks, right? So they're paying for that too. And you can't just build in the time when it went right. You have to also build in the time, a little bit of time for it to go wrong. Otherwise, if something goes wrong or when the model updates and everything goes wrong, now you're oversubscribed, overextended.
Right.
Which is
why, and I can't tell you how many times that you're going to add on to your project for revisions. I don't know anybody else who's worked with having to do revisions of a project. There's that's going to be a thing. Sorry. That's
no. And that's the thing is, it's very interesting. A lawyer told me that's like, hey, the thing that is preventing lawyers from really feeling it is regulation, because in current regulation, you have whatever it is, you have to have it reviewed by a human lawyer. But the moment everybody trusts an AI, is like, you know what, it could be reviewed by a human or an AI lawyer. Then it's like, then we're dead, because then there is, for us, we don't need to review it. Everybody has the trust in AI. That's it. That's the end of that. So it's a very interesting. Just thought it was neat.
Well, I mean, it's also the AI has to be better than humans, right?
Yeah,
because AI is better at driving now than the average human is better at driving, right? You're going to have fewer accidents there, but it does not change that if you have an accident that is bad, that we trust AI less to do those sorts of things. Same thing with the review, right? Like yes, a human could totally have made that mistake, but the robot made the mistake, and therefore I'm more upset.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because by popular demand, I had AI pull up some Notebook LM updates, and it's essentially you can do prompt-based slide edits for Notebook LM. There is now PowerPoint or PPTX file format export for those who love to use PowerPoint slides. And mainly that Google's is adding Gemini 3.1 Pro to its higher tier customers, accessible through Notebook LM as well. If there's anything else I missed, chat, please let me know. But essentially, that's what it comes down to. And apparently, there's also a rumor that on the back end, they're testing out custom notebook banners for Notebook LM, but that's still in the development phase. Again, rumors. Okay. Unless there's any other story or item that either of you two want to talk about, I think it's time for AI and science. Okay, so here is the AI and science story that I have. All right. There was a team, a junior research team that consisted of a master's student and a high school kid empowered with AI tools. They used AI to build medical prediction models in just a few minutes that match or beat what teams of PhD level data scientists spent months building. And the results of that got published in a major medical journal. So this paper came out February 17th in Cell Reports Medicine, and it's been making the rounds. So, all right. So why does this matter? So first, some context. This had to deal with preemie or preterm birth, babies born before 37 weeks. It's the #1 cause of newborn death in the United States. About 1,000 babies are born too early every single day. Globally, it's 11% of all babies born were preterm each year. And researchers have been trying to research why this happens, right? It's not locked down on the causes. So researchers at UC San Francisco built one of the largest pregnancy data sets in the world. They pulled together microbiome data, that's the bacteria in the body, from about 1,200 pregnant women across 9 different studies. So a huge data set. So the problem with having such a huge data set was analyzing all the data. And this is, of course, where AI comes in, right? So normally, without the assistance of AI, you'd have to have a whole team of experienced data scientists to just build the code pipeline before you can even look for patterns or, notice anything that's significant in the data. And then you have to build the analysis tools. And so there's lots of bottlenecks through that traditional process. So a few years ago, UCSF, they tried to solve these bottlenecks by crowdsourcing. So they launched something called the DREAM Challenge. And that stands for Dialogue on Reverse Engineering Assessment and Methods. So pretty much they come up with the acronym first and then fit what words are going to make the acronym. It's basically a global competition where data science teams from around the world compete to build the best prediction models. Over 300 teams participated, and then more than 100 groups submitted models trying to predict preterm birth from the data. Most teams finished their analysis within about 3 months. So here's the thing. It took nearly 2 years to pull all those results together, validate everything, and actually publish the findings. 2 years from competition to published paper. Now, here's the AI experiment part. So, of course, research asked what the obvious next question is. Can AI do this faster? So this is what they did. They took 8 different generative AI chatbots, think ChatGPT kind of things, and gave them the exact same data sets from those dream challenges. No human coding. They just gave the AI systems carefully written prompts, natural language instructions, and said, hey, analyze this data and build us a prediction model. So they paired the UCSF master's student named Ruben Sarwal with a high school student, Victor Tarka, from Huron High School in Ann Arbor, Michigan. These two, working with AI tools, generated functioning computer code in minutes. The same code that would normally take experienced programmers hours or even days to write. So, this is what we've been seeing in the AI space. It's like, oh, AI, I didn't know how to code before. Now I can make my own software. So they stacked the AI results versus the 300 plus expert teams. 4 of the 8 AI chatbots produced usable prediction models, and of those 4, some of them matched and in certain cases actually outperformed the models built by human expert teams who had spent months on the same data. The entire AI-powered project, from the very first prompt to submitting the finished paper to a journal, took 6 months. And that's in comparison to the nearly 2 years for the human-only version. So 6 months versus 2 years. 2-person team with AI versus hundreds of specialist teams without it. Now, there's a few caveats, right? Half of the AI tools failed. 4 out of the 8 did not produce usable code. So that's a coin flip. If you pick the wrong chatbot, you got nothing. The researchers were very clear. AI still produces misleading results. It still requires human oversight and is not a replacement for scientific expertise. Someone still had to design the experiment, write the right prompts, and critically evaluate what comes back. But what AI did do is eliminate the most tedious, time-consuming part of the process, writing and debugging the analysis code. And if you've been paying attention to any of the AI in science stories that I have been talking about over the last few months, they all kind of have the same general framework. AI does the tedious, boring science part of everything. Okay. And this is where it lives, at least for right now, until we eventually get to a point where we'll get novel, truly novel ideas. Everybody in chat, give me your guess until we get truly novel science discoveries from AI. Now, like I said, it freed the researchers to focus on asking the right questions instead of fighting with the software. Marina Sirota, who led the study at UCSF, put it this way. These AI tools could relieve one of the biggest bottlenecks in data science, building the analysis pipelines. And she said the speed up couldn't come sooner for patients who need help now. And I think that's the other factor, is speed and time in that it takes for the boring or mundane or tedious parts of things is the largest amount of time through the process. Combine that with, rigorous validation steps. But if we can speed up at least this part of it, we can get more solutions for more people faster and help more people. So why is this a bigger story than singly one study? So first, democratization. I'm a big fan of lowering barriers. I would love it if, models got good enough and tight enough to where I can run a full-size model on my laptop, or even better, on my phone. And if everyone can run it on their own hardware, that'd be great. So because a high school student just co-authored a paper in Cell Reports Medicine, the barrier for doing serious data science just dropped dramatically. The skill is shifting from can you write the code to can you ask the right question? And can you ask the right question seems to be one of the main things that I'm seeing collectively in the AI space. Can you write the right question? Can you provide the ideal example? All right. So if you have these kinds of skills, that's going to translate to great insights and output from AI in general. Right. Just like months ago, we were talking about having that ability to constantly want to learn and having agency to just do it. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can ideate, right? Second, like I said, speed saves lives. In preterm birth research, there are thousands of babies born too early every day. Compressing a 2-year research cycle to 6 months has real consequences for how fast new tools reach patients and doctors. And third, this is what AI is as a scientific collaborator. This is what it actually looks like in practice. We're not talking about autonomous robot scientists, or at least not yet, not replacing researchers. It's human plus AI team, where the human brings the judgment and AI brings the speed. And that seems to be the AI in science model now. So
Very cool.
AI in science story.
Well, it's essentially giving it's essentially giving not just a democratization, but in some ways a template. It's not giving a template, but I feel like what you're talking about is giving the benefits that a template would give, right?
Mhm.
Because now you can plug and play, but you can plug and play because AI can play any research you want to come that is appropriate to the question that you've asked, which is what makes it faster. It's delightful and fascinating. I, like you, am a big fan of citizen science.
Mhm. Indeed, indeed.
What?
All right.
Okay.
yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, I was just gonna check to see if there was anything you guys wanted to bring up. That's what I've got for today. But I did want to end with one last story or one last question.
I
This is. Oh, you got something.
I feel like Cisco asked a question
Oh,
that is very important and potentially one of you are able to answer.
okay.
And it was in the context of Greg saying, this is all for now because human expertise will be simulated. And Cisco would like to know, was that Locutus, T. Borg, or was it Picard? So let's just do a little shout out to our sci-fi AI friends. Thank you very much. So it's not a real question, but comment on it. Give the people what they want.
Right. Well, I'll just say that resistance is not futile, and
Good answer.
and there's always a source for something. Now, can you build upon it and make something new about from it? And that will be, I think, the key indicator for the future.
All right.
Simulated's fine. Simulated's just another baseline of information. Can you use it, turn it into something new, and build upon that? That's progress. So we'll see what comes out of that. All right. I want to close up with a question for everybody. I know last week I asked what projects that have they come across or are working on that have sparked their interest or their following or anything like that. So so chat, this is for you. Put in your answers. Any project or AI related project or topic or item or whatnot that you are either researching or working on. Put that into chat there, and I pose the question to you, Beth and Karl. Is there a particular thing that you're working on or that has sparked your interest?
I think one thing that we've done is a lot of the stuff that we've done with automations, we're converting it now to pretty like trying to convert as much as we can to Cowork or Claude Code, just because it is less definitive and we can teach the client to be able to engage with it much easier than them trying to or having us maintain whatever the automation is. And I think that's it just makes everything a lot easier. Some of the more like little bit more complex ones we have to think through, but for most of them it's pretty straightforward. And I think for them it's a lot more like it's more fun to do because they get to like kind of learn how to do some of that stuff. So yeah.
So I am working on transforming transcripts into pages about the content that we talked about that will make up the bulk of our website. I'm working backwards and just finalized one of the pieces that needs to happen for that to occur. This mythical website will, in fact, brigadoon itself at some point soon into our current day 200-year cycle. So, but yeah, I had a really good day yesterday. First time that I have hit my context limit for my
Mm.
$100 max plan within a 4.5 hour period or whatever it is. And also looking at my weekly limit. This may be the month that I upgrade or turn on something that says, hey, no, I need to keep going.
Are you going max, like max, like from not just max to like 20 times max?
Yes, that would be the next upgrade that I do.
That is the craziest. The only price that I don't want to pay is Google's ultra price. If you ever look at the ultra price, you're like, why would you charge that? That is an insane charge for anybody.
Well, OpenAI wants to do their 2,000 or 20,000
20,000
level, right?
But that's
a very unique use case. That is like none of us will ever apply for that. Like, right? But there could be that one company that's like, hey, yes, 20,000 is like a drop, and be like, that's purely big enterprise. Like, yeah, 20,000, no problems, we'll do that.
Well, that's the question for next week then. That's a question for the Daily AI Show community.com. Is does the $1 billion single person company need to, for it to happen, does it need a $20,000 a month AI plan? Let us know in the community. There you go.
It's interesting because the single person, the like sole proprietor unicorn, is likely the kind of person who could build that. Like, I feel like the selling proposition for the 20K is for companies that were going to hire it at a higher price level and have benefits because it was going to be a human person, and those are the people who are going to do the 20K. But it is an interesting future question. OpenAI is coming down and offering, it looks like, maybe we're just going to talk it into existence, $100 pro plan, and I would be happy for that. That would be okay with me.
Any move in that direction, I think, is long-term better for these companies. I understand right now it's maybe they're trying to leverage the heaviest users to offset costs and things like that. I can understand the kind of thinking. I think long-term, we should be able to access everything at the standard $20 a month account, and then you have your free tier, which is going to be ad supported. We'll see what happens in the future. There was a great who was it? Matt Wolf. He did a segment or an episode where he was just showing, like, here's the progression. I mean, from another article, showing the progression of how Google went from clear ads to, oh yeah, now they look like every other instance.
Yeah.
So maybe ad supported is probably not a good idea, for the consumer side of things, but we'll see what happens.
That's the trap, right? Because it's like, the more money you make out of it, you're like, wait a minute, this is a cash cow. More. And Google's like, holy cow, how do we get more people to click on it rather than click the organic, because that's what's making us money. Hence, you have all these like sponsored, smaller confusion versus
looks exactly the same except for one line.
And danger with AI, but as long as you're paying for it for now, you don't have to. We're not seeing any of these ads.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't turn like streaming services.
Oh
pay
God!
For Hulu, still get commercials. Sorry. I'll
There were a couple people. Cisco shared his update. Gareth shared. Yes.
But I want to wrap up with theirs because obviously their projects are more important than ours. I just wanted to really quick say the things that I'm paying attention to is how I can do everything locally. I want to run everything on, like I said earlier, I want to run everything on my own hardware. I want full control of my own model and all those kinds of things. So still the SBC side of thing. And this idea of OpenClaw and running agents, all on my own hardware is and still is really appealing. But yes,
but one thing that I think we forget is Jason Kalinakis talked about this. He's like, hold on a second, it's costing me $300 per day, which is, if you equivalent, it's like $100,000 employee. So the question now, like I think the other guy said, hold on a second, like it how much is it token allocation now you're going to be talking about? Do you how much do you allocate essentially compute or tokens to your developers? Because like what are they doing? What are they going to do based on whatever the question? So if you think about it from a token perspective, maybe that $20,000 researcher a year may, or a month or whatever, may actually be the more cheaper than like getting massive bills.
That's the big question, right? Because you have to compare that token use. So do I pay the premium for processing the tokens through the model intermediary, right?
Yeah.
Through like OpenAI? Do I purchase data center hardware or time, right? Because like when you any kind of CGI or graphical stuff in the past, you still needed to send it off to a render farm, right? So you need to then compare how fast is the turnaround or cost of borrowing GPUs and CPUs. That's always been around. That's not that's not new, right? Been doing that for 20 years. Versus kind of what I've been looking at is, for my purposes, if I have smaller models that do specific things and I can orchestrate them, or if I have just enough hardware, like a tweaked out Mac Studio, right, can do 170 tokens a second, can run, it's got enough memory in there and enough unified memory in there to run a, hundreds of billions or maybe even a trillion parameter model. And then if I cluster those, right, that becomes 40K.
Yeah.
But if I'm at that level where I just buy 40K, it's like, yeah, okay, there you go. I just run one in my closet, right? I would never put it in a closet because, improper airflow. But I'm just saying, you could just run one of those things. You kind of have to start taking the mindset of a individual crypto miner. I know maybe not necessarily the best reference, but you build your own rig. You got something like 8-10 GPUs on there. You've got to, it's essentially clustering a bunch of hardware. And is the ROI going to be enough for you because you're using your own tokens? As things get cheaper and cheaper for token use, right, we're going to rely more and more on the token use. So has the foundational AI models, hardware providers like NVIDIA and data centers, have they just created a different currency in terms of time? We don't like to use hours anymore. We like to use deliverables, right? But time is the ultimate measure of currency because everyone has the exact same amount of time per day. So tokens are just the new medium, right?
And that also connects to the stories that we were talking about earlier in terms of what is your calculation if you just have to wait 4 months and then there will be an open source model, likely a Chinese model that was trained on the thing that you were building all of this to use the tokens of. Are you now in a position where you learned how to work with it and now you just have to do a small pivot to you're running the entire thing
right
in your not closet with great airflow and perhaps I don't know, are you going to, because the crypto reference was relevant, like are you going to then need an alternative energy source that powers it, or are you going to get flagged by the electric company that you're using too much electricity for what your house should normally use, or you just started like
Well,
It's suspicious.
This is where we take a page from Matt from Undecided and Tech Connections, and you build out your own energy plants. Like, new solar cells are so efficient. Put in your heat pump, put in your, your sand batteries and things like that, and just be like, okay, cool. I got my own power. Great. Awesome. I've got my own tokens. It becomes the token economy, right? I got my own tokens to produce either work or sell the tokens or whatnot. This all becomes a self-sufficiency or a self-sustainability play in the long term. Okay, and I said I wanted to highlight some of the projects that people were working on. So, first of all, we got Cisco. Cisco web scrapers on AI, regulatory, etc., that triggers automatically and dumping into Notion. Great information collection, data set collection, and then what are you turning that into, Cisco, if you can say, because some of us are working on such grand projects that we really can't talk about it. Like Gareth really can't talk about it. You got to give us some clues, Gareth. Say it in the community. That way, only great minds, join the community. And so maybe you can give us a little hint there. And who was it recently here? Propaganda. Yeah. I didn't mean to be rude about crypto miners. Yeah, it's digital prospectors. Okay, I like it. Back in 2009, or maybe it was even 2008, I would have loved if they didn't call it validators and called it miners or prospectors, because then I would have had my little Performa 610 Mac just chugging away, making Bitcoin, and then I could have sold it in 2018 for 20K, because I would not have lasted to the 100K hit. But if I had 50,000 Bitcoin by then, it wouldn't be an issue. But so yes, I didn't mean any shade there. Okay. Oh, what do we got here? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm gonna wrap it up. See you, Karl. Take it easy. Thank you so much for joining us. We do really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody in chat and everyone who's going to watch this a little later. If you want to continue the conversations, please go to dailyaishowcommunity.com. Join our Slack community. Lots of great people there talking about the latest things that they're working on and what they're finding. Of course, tune in every day during the week, Monday through Friday, for another great episode. Spend some time with the Daily AI Show crew. So remember, keep your minds and your hearts open. Aloha.
Thanks, everybody.